These are my girls. These are my inspirational paintings there. Thank you, Carolyn Wonderland. Oh, fuck. I'm hiding Harley Quinn here with a weird quote that was written by a lady friend of mine that I was keeping up there as motivation. But as you can kind of see, my little art wall of inspiration, Pluto, keeping me focused. Ever since my dog Zato got shot and killed in Austin from the Austin PD and everything. Technically it wasn't Austin PD, it was Hutto PD, but still. Shot and killed my dog, so sad. And if you were watching my earlier video, we're at the ending scenes of The Grandmaster, so please excuse. But other than that, you know, wall of inspiration as I like to call it and stuff, so. But either way, back on track. These are my girls. I showed you Retro, my 1983 Kingston Acoustic Electric, and now I think I'm going to show you Faith. Because very much when it comes to music, you gotta keep having faith, no matter what. Oh, and if you're curious, these are like my travel songbooks. The blue one's got all the cover songs I know, and all the others are kind of like my originals I'm writing and random thoughts here and there. But here, as I'll try to showcase, is Faith. Now, Faith, from what I can tell, based on what it is a Fender Strat 50th anniversary. I believe it was made in the 90s, but it could have been made in the 2000s. You Strat fanatics will fucking get at me real quick. So just to start the video off here, I'm going to show you the VIN number. So you can start telling me all the information about this guitar that I could really care less about, because it's the sound that I care most about. And in true, I feel like Stevie Ray Vaughan fashion, at one point I broke the A string a while back, and I have done nothing to cut the string, because quite often I like to go to shows and leave strings on my guitars. That way someone try to be like, oh no, it's my guitar. I'm like, nah bro, it's mine. And be like, oh yeah. But this is a pretty unique guitar to fucking say, you know, for it not to be mine. But as I'll show and demonstrate, I mentioned it was the 50th anniversary. That is about the only staple that I can tell that makes it it. And I don't think someone was clever and reposted the sticker, as you can tell. So I think that's pretty much original on there. Does not have, you know, the best tuners in the world, I guess. I don't think those are the upgraded tuners, but very well it could be. Like I said, depending on the 90s, there's a good chance they use quality parts. If it was the 2000s, not so much. But we'll start on the back here. You know, basically this guitar was, you know, the Jimi Hendrix looking Strat. It was the white on white maple neck, you know, Woodstock, you know, styling Strat. And then at some point, before I got this guitar, someone decided to paint it black. As you can see, I decided to take off the black and just kind of, I was like, you know, in the midst of being like, oh shit, I'll bring it back, but decided not to. What's interesting though, I'm not sure if you can tell, so I might try to put a light on this, maybe. This is actually a mint green plate here, or back plate, which is kind of hard to tell without a white plate, but I kind of did that as a little color exposure thing. You might be able to tell. I was hoping that the light would be good this time of day so you could actually kind of tell, but you can tell from here to here it's an off shade, but what it is, it's actually green, like that mint green that was popular in the 50s. I basically got a kit and put it on. And then, sadly, these are just simply wood screws. As a carpenter, I decided it'll fucking work. I'm not gonna sit here try to find period correct fucking wood screws. So, sorry, Fender enthusiast, already destroyed it. But it's a 21 fret. Faith actually lives an interesting life. I keep it in between D and E. Currently, it's a half step down, D sharp or E flat, however you want to look at it, or you want to call it Kurt Cobain's tuning, or even the band Live. If you're not familiar with the band Live, you've actually heard a lot of their songs and not realized that they were called Live. Out of Pennsylvania, cool band actually, hardly known. But as I said, it's a Mexican Strat 50th anniversary. I don't know if I said it was a Mexican Strat now, but there you go. You can see made in Mexico. 21 fret. I like using .73 picks. I know this is a Planet Grooves .70 75, but typically I like using the yellow picks because essentially they're around 70. They're kind of more my favorites. I know on retro you would have seen I had a red pick, but it in fact was the Guitar Center advertising pick. And if you're a musician like I am, and you got picks on all your guitars, your friends will somehow take them home with them. So I put out the shitty picks I don't want. And I keep the picks I want hiding. Now here's a great example of the mint green on white. You can kind of really see it versus the back plate. And what it is, when I got this guitar, I got it from a coworker who was moving out of his house. He was moving in with his girlfriend. And he was like, man, I got some music gear I really want to get rid of. And I was just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Ironically, I had bought Glory, that Strat there, a week before. And it was like a week later, he hits me up talking about selling this Strat. And I'm just like, universe, what the hell do you want me to dump money on all these musical instruments at once? But I don't know, I don't question the universe. But as you can tell, like I was saying before, originally it was that off-white on white Strat, not quite the Jimi Hendrix, Woodstock Strat. But it could be, it just could be aged and shit. So it could have been whiter, but it's more of an aged white than white. And what I decided to do when rebuilding this guitar, when I got it, it didn't work at all. So I was able to get this guitar for 125 bucks. And then it was like after the deal, my coworker, I think, realized how good of a deal he gave it to me. He was trying to be like, oh, I want another 100 for it after we had already made the deal. And I said, all right, man, I'll get it to you. But then we spent 6 months of me trying to bring him money, and he never wanted to take it from me. Personally, I think it was just his girlfriend saying that he needs to get that money from me, and personally he didn't care, because he said the reason why he was selling it to me is because he knew it would be played. And what's really cool about this guitar is that apparently it's got an echo chamber built in here, because when you're playing it, especially when you're doing the notes from the 10th down, it'll start harmonizing and echoing very beautifully, and it adds so much resistance while playing. But as you can see, it's a basic Strat, nothing crazy. I will say this is the original pickups and tone knobs, except for this. I had to replace this, but this guitar essentially was gutted. It was beaten up. As he put it, it was the only nice guitar him and his friends had growing up, so it went through all the local bands here in Houston, Texas, and so forth. And yeah, at some point they had painted it black, and then as you see here, while sanding away, made this little celestial sky scene kind of break apart, which is why I chose to get the purple pickguard here. And then I figured, because I like purple and green a lot, I'd do a subtle mint green versus like a darker green, which really I don't think would have actually fit the look. But cool thing is though, you can kind of tell, as I'm talking to you now, you can see the mint green kind of come out, and that's more what I wanted, was a subtlety. And any of you who've ever spent time in a hardware store will see that I've taken some extreme distances to keep the nut from ever getting loose on this guitar. So that is not stock. That is something I did. It actually has a really nice bridge. So whatever this guitar originally was is amazing. 5-way switch. Nothing too crazy. This tone knob operates the first pickup. This tone operates the bridge, neck bridge, and the middle is just a free flowing. So literally, that's how the dynamics work of this Strat. And other than that, it's a pretty beautiful guitar. Still pretty straight. Nothing too crazy. I keep it pretty low. I didn't have to do too much work to it. Like I said, it was just the wiring was ripped out of it. All that was in here was like the pickups and the knobs, and then I found out this one doesn't work. And so I changed the pickup covers and the tone knobs, and the switch didn't have a knob on it, so I switched it to the mint green. When I bought it, it was like it was the 50s series mint green that was popular during the Buddy Holly days, and the Jackie Wilson and the Big Bopper and all those fuckers from the 50s. And I put the purple pickguard on it because I just thought it would give it a whole dynamic of color that would be subtly noticeable, but nothing too crazy. But this is Faith, codename Faith, my Mexican Strat 50th anniversary. So I would love to tell you that it's a C-shaped neck, and if you ever go into this, you can kind of talk. It's not a U, because a U would be fatter, kind of like fatter necks. I call it a C just because of how thin it is, personally for me. But action, it's pretty low. I don't know if you can get anything lower than that. It's not that I'm against high action guitars. It's just not my cup of tea. I have played them, but typically I kind of like it close to the fretboard. But I know a lot of people like high action. I just don't. Strings I'm using on this is currently this one has GHSs. I believe I'm using 11s on these. Typically I like using. I was a huge believer in the 9s. But as I got older, I wanted more grunt out of my play. And so I believe these are GHS's 11s. I know I have a pair of 10s sitting around, but I don't believe that's what's on this because... Actually, no, I'm actually more confident it is the 11s because I think I just have the one pack of 10s, and that's why I have one pack because I've never used it. So I believe, it would be like, the low E is an 11 and the top E actually is a 58. So I'm doing a little bit of a blues trick or Roger Waters trick, however you want to look at it. Or not Roger Waters, but either way, Pink Floyd trick. Or even the Stevie Ray Vaughan trick where he used to like using 60s or 65s, but basically the G string out of a bass just to give him that low E when he's playing. But overall, cosmetically, it's kind of one of those artsy, beautiful guitars. A pawn shop will never take it, so it's kind of beautiful. It'd be hard for anyone to pawn, but otherwise, just gave it the characteristics of the black and white. Even with that, the one thing that does suck though is I was doing a show at someone's little barbecue, and you can kind of tell if I can zoom in on the right spot that I had a little bit of a love tap with the brick slipped out of my hand. So it's the one thing I was upset about, but none like characteristics on a guitar to make it beautiful. But this is my girl, Faith. And every time we go through life and all that shit and you think you want to quit, you gotta remember, you always gotta have faith that someday it'll all work out. But this is my girl, Faith. She's beautiful. And you'll understand why the other guitar is called Glory here, so that's why I have faith in Glory. But either way, ta-da!